Let's pick a field, folks. It's the field of 64. We're back. We took a break last week. We're back recharged, ready to go. A lot has happened since we talked to you last. I'm Mark Etheridge. I'm here with Aaron Fitt and Kendall Rogers. This is the Nerdcast. We're going to pick the college baseball field of 64. We're going to go through, find our 16 hosts, our top 8 national seeds that would host both rounds should they win. We're going to pick our automatics. We're going to pick our at-larges. And then at the end of this, we're going to have an actual field that is probably going to be really exciting to do. And I know everybody is jazzed up to go. One thing I will remind you is this is not the field as of today. We are doing some projecting, and there's still 5 weeks of conference play plus conference tournaments. So there's still a lot of wiggle room in there. And we don't quite know what everyone's going to do. We think there are going to be some teams make some runs, and there are going to be some teams that come back to the pack. So take that into consideration when you look at our field. Well, guys, let's get started. Number one for me, and Kendall, if you want to pop that screen up, we can do that. Let's look at Arkansas, Texas, maybe Tennessee, Georgia. Those would be the top teams for me. Where do you guys land on who do you think will be the final number 1 overall seed on Selection Day?
I still lean Arkansas. I mean, I know Arkansas lost a series over the weekend, but I still really like the fact they're number 1 in the RPI. Their non-conference strength of schedule, is incredible, but is certainly much better than Texas's. Pretty good quad 1, rating. I stick with the Hogs. I think they'll end up winning the SEC.
So I'll throw this out there. Texas at this point has the most impressive conference body of work. They are 13-2 in the SEC. They have the sweep of Georgia and the series win against LSU, and they don't have as daunting a path forward as Arkansas in conference, right, Mark? I mean, they've got
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Kendall's onto something with the non-conference strength of schedule. I mean, Arkansas non-conference strength of schedule is 84. Texas is 232. That's to this point. And so, that's an advantage for Arkansas, but I do wonder if the path forward maybe favors the Horns, and especially considering they've already had probably the more impressive body work to this point.
Yeah.
Their conference schedule has been harder. They have a 1-game better record.
Yeah. I played the game where you project how you think the conference race is going to finish. And of course you're wrong as soon as you do that, because nothing goes according to form. But I had Texas ending up as the SEC champion. And I think a lot of that is because of who's left to play. And Arkansas is just brutal who they still have remaining to face. I might like Arkansas's team better, but I don't know that they're going to finish ahead in the standings. Now, how much does that matter in today's unbalanced conference world? I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I would go Texas, then Arkansas is where I lean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only thing about Arkansas is the only series I see them losing the rest of the way is potentially at LSU. Like, I think they win the A&M series at home. I think they win Florida on the road. I think they win Texas at home. And I think they win Tennessee at home.
The fact that they have a lot of those at home is helpful.
Yeah, it sure is.
Texas has Auburn at home this weekend, A&M at home, which helps. At Arkansas, Florida at home, and then at OU. So it's easier, but I mean, you still have to go to Fayetteville.
Yeah. I mean, that may be the difference, right? If it comes down to it, Arkansas has got Texas at home. I can see that. It's.
I think I'm good with Texas today, but it could change for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly all these teams kind of control their own destiny. Whoever finishes the best down the last 6 weeks will be the number 1 seed.
And they're going to be really close. I do feel like these are going to be, and there could be. I mean, Tennessee could hop into this mix too. I feel like by the end of it, they probably will.
Agreed.
So you go Texas first this week?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
Texas, Arkansas. then I'd probably go Clemson. One thing that's really interesting about Clemson, guys, 11-4 in the ACC. Clemson has 8 or 17 wins against Q1 and Q2 teams. Arkansas 8, Texas 12. And they have 5 more Q1 and Q2 wins than both of those teams.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty loud.
Sure is.
Yeah, I like Clemson 3.
Okay. I do think that there will be an ACC team in this top group. I don't know if it'll be third or fourth or second or maybe first. For me, Tennessee would be the next team.
Yep.
Agreed.
And then I would have Georgia.
I think so.
Okay. So then it I think it opens up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with Oregon State? I'm not sure if I'm ready for them at 6, but what do you do with Auburn? Auburn's got a really interesting. They have 11 quad 1 wins. The other thing about Auburn, and what they trying to find where I was looking at this. They have 6 wins against teams that we projected as number 1 seeds last week. And that stacks up really well if you compare that with the other teams in consideration here.
Yeah. 6-4. So they played 10 of those games, and they're 6-4 against those teams that were 1 seeds last week. And also 18-7, Mark, using your new charts, or your handy new charts. 18-7 against teams that were projected in our field last week for Auburn, which is I think the next closest is 12 wins for Georgia and North Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good resume at the moment. The issue I have with Auburn is they go to Texas and they go to Ole Miss and they go to Tennessee. That's 3 really challenging places to win. How much staying power do they have? They swept LSU, so obviously they can compete with great teams, but it's different playing that kind of opposition on the road. And
they're only 3-5 on the road. Auburn is, which is out of I think all the teams in the top, 25 of the RPI, they're the only ones with a losing record on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't, it doesn't mean they can't go on the road and make some noise, but it doesn't bode as well for them having to play those 3 series on the road.
It doesn't.
But their body work to this point is pretty impressive. So the teams that are in the mix then for these last, what do we have, 3 spots left in the top 8?
Yep.
Auburn, Oregon State, Coastal Carolina, maybe. I mean,
Georgia Tech.
14-4. 14-4 in the ACC is pretty loud.
10-4 Q1.
Yeah. I think I know they're a little lower in the RPI. Georgia Tech, they're 13 in the RPI, but they're 7 in the DSR, which is interesting. The Diamond Sports rankings.
And they're playing with some injured guys that they're going to get back, or without some injured guys. So, the reason I bring that up is if they're able to do it without those players when they come back, they should be energized. Plus, they'll have more depth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it sounds like Kyle Lodice in particular will be back pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like Georgia Tech and Auburn for 2 of these 3 spots in some order, and maybe you just go with the Beavers for the next one. I mean, at this point, they've got some nice quality series wins, with Irvine and Cal Poly, and they're in the top 10 in the RPI, and it feels like they've kind of done what they need to do.
Okay.
I don't know though. What do you guys think about that?
So, if we're looking but trying to compare those teams, let's see what we can come up with here. So, we compare Auburn and Georgia Tech and
kind of coastal Oregon State.
Yep.
That kind of feels like the 4 teams for 3 spots, right? I mean, unless you wanted to throw You've got other teams like LSU or, maybe a Florida State that are in the discussion, and it kind of depends how you think they're going to finish.
Mm-hmm. I really don't know how to evaluate Oregon State without a conference, and there are so many road games. I would think that would matter.
A lot of neutral site.
Yeah, that's true. Away from home, I should say.
Yeah, they've played 15. They've played 21 games away from home.
Yeah.
The fact that you have a really good resume and a really good record despite that is really impressive.
Yeah.
10-4 against teams in the field last week. 4-4 against 1 and 2 seeds in last week's field, and 6-0 against 3 seeds. So they've just I like their body of work.
Yeah. Do you think it matters that Auburn has beaten both of these teams? You think that would give them a leg up?
At this point we're kind of splitting hairs. Maybe it's Auburn, Georgia Tech, Oregon State. Maybe that's the 3 in that order.
Okay.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So that would be our top 8: Texas, Arkansas, Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Oregon State. So we'd have we're at number 9 now. We have 8 more host sites, and among those, I think the top candidates here. I mean, obviously LSU had a rough weekend, but they would be a candidate.
Yeah, they would be my next team here.
Yeah, Coastal would be, Ole Miss would be, North Carolina, Florida State, Vanderbilt, Arizona, UCLA, TCU, Cal Poly, maybe West Virginia.
Yeah.
Irvine. That's probably
Arizona.
the list. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I think
LSU would probably be my next team here.
I do think LSU will finish strong. I'm with you, Kendall.
Yeah. And then I would probably go Coastal. Coastal was a team that I thought, just looking at what they've done, I think it's a top 8-ish kind of a resume. So probably settles a little lower than that, but 10 feels good. Okay. Probably Florida State.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that concerns me about Coastal staying power is the fact that the bottom of that league is so bad.
Yeah, let's look at their remaining.
And they don't have any more, I guess RPI helpers left on the weekends.
That's a good point.
Because they don't play Southern Miss, and they've already played Troy, and nobody else. They're either neutral or they hurt you.
Yeah, 3 against Marshall, 3 at JMU, home against App, at ULM. All those teams are outside the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in that 140 to 170 range for the most part. And then you got ODU for 3 on the road, which is 69 in the RPI, but has a bad record, 12-21.
Well, it's all road games. That's why the RPI is good.
Yeah. But just playing a 12-21 team on the road for 3 games
does not help.
Even if they have a good RPI, it doesn't really help your RPI.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably have them a little bit lower in the pecking order. I just think that honestly, the resume is pretty light. It's an inflated RPI because of road games.
For Coastal?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's not going to go up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have
not.
To be fair, no, I would push back a little bit. Like, I think they've actually done some good things non-conference. I mean, again, they beat Kansas State twice, which is one of the top teams in the Big 12. They beat NC State. They took 2 out of 3 at East Carolina. I know the Pirates are struggling right now, but still, I
guess my point is their RPI is number 8 right now, and I think it's going to be high teens.
Yeah, that seems more likely.
Which is potentially still a host, especially if you win the league.
Yep.
But maybe not the number 10.
Yep.
Yeah. I would actually probably have like Florida State, probably the next team.
Yeah.
11-4 in the ACC right now.
Ahead of Coastal.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see that.
7-4 against Quad 1. Coastal's 2-5.
Yeah, a lot of Coastal's damage though. Wow. I mean, I will say this:
Q3.
Q2 and 3. They're 8-2 against Q2 and 12-0 in Q3, and so that's 20-2 against Qs 2 and 3, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, Q3 is not. Those aren't powerhouse teams.
So let's look at the other candidates here.
Alabama.
Ole Miss would probably have to be in the mix.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
Alabama's losing steam for me.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, the metrics are still okay. I mean, they're 14-7 against Q1, Q2.
They're just not hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 and 7 now.
They're 15th in the SEC games in batting and homers. They're just and 14th in steals. They're just not manufacturing anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you'd have to look at a Big 12 team or two. Yeah, TCU and West Virginia. Probably you can look at North Carolina, Ole Miss. Those feel like.
I like TCU as one of these teams. I mean, they're 18 wins against Q1, Q2. Granted, 16 of those 18 are against Q2, but 41 non-conference strength of schedule. It's a lot of boxes checked there.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'm not sure the order after Florida State, but I'm just kind of holding them here.
I kind of like TCU ahead of Ole Miss.
Okay.
Ole Miss, by the way, as we're recording this, loses a rare midweek game to Little Rock, and their RPI dropped 5 spots. So
wow.
Ole Miss down to 17 now.
Interesting.
They played so well this weekend and that against Tennessee.
Probably took a little bit out of them.
Gosh, all of a sudden, North Carolina with their hot streak is 28-8. 9 in the DSR also.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm bullish on those guys finishing strong.
Yeah, the way their offense is coming together now.
I like them as a host. I'm not sure where to slot them, but we have these 4 teams we like: TCU, Ole Miss.
I feel pretty good about those 4 teams we have in there.
Yeah. In what order? Let's go ahead and slot these then, if these are our next 4.
Yeah, I would say personally for me, I would say TCU, Ole Miss. I know Coastal fans are going to think I'm bagging on them, but I would go North Carolina, Coastal Carolina. I just think that that league is going to start dragging Coastal down soon.
I could see even TCU, UNC, Ole Miss. After.
Yeah, sure, no issue. I'm all about the Tar Heels. Noted Tar Heel homer, Kendall Rogers.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. People are saying. So now we have 2 spots left. I don't know what to do with UCLA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this, Mark. I get the Q1 mark, and I do think maybe waiting to see what happens this weekend makes sense with Cal Poly. But the fact that they're 14-1 in the Big West, they played the 30th non-conference strength of schedule. They're 12-5 on the road. I kind of like them as like the last team on here.
Boy, though, they just.
That said,
the quality wins are lacking. They've played some good non-conference series that have helped their RPI, but they've lost those series. They haven't got swept in one of them, but they, again, losing 2 out of 3 on the road against good teams.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know. I'm looking for any kind of signature series win.
Yeah.
I mean, Hawaii is it. They took 2 out of 3 at home against Hawaii. That's their signature series win.
Truth. Yeah, I mean, they'll have an opportunity in 2 weekends they play. That's kind of why I said the next 2 weekends. They're at UCSB, and they have UCI at home. I do think if they win both of those series, I think it's a different conversation.
They also got swept at UCLA. I know that was week 1, but it counts. It counts.
Yeah.
And they and UCLA are in similar spots. I think I would have UCLA certainly ahead of Poly.
I would too.
I would say so. If we're not going to go Poly, so I think one of these 2 spots goes to another Big 12 team.
Yeah.
And to me, it's either Arizona or West Virginia.
Didn't they play?
Huh?
Yeah, Arizona took 2 out of 3
Didn't
at
Arizona
West
win
Virginia.
at Morgantown? Yeah.
Arizona did win in Morgantown.
2 out of 3. And West Virginia has, I mean, again, it's a really poor non-conference strength of schedule. 290.
Those are the things the committee harps on too.
Yeah, I mean, in a case
Arizona
like this,
134. So not incredible, but solid.
Yeah, and it has the head-to-head win on the road and is ahead in the RPI. And
yeah, I'm not saying that they can't both host, but Arizona's got to be ahead of them right now.
I think I like Arizona and UCLA, and West Virginia is still in prove-it mode for me. Another 30-4, which is loud. Mm-hmm. It is loud, but I mean, again, no series wins against a regional caliber team. I think their only single win against a regional caliber team is the one against Arizona where they lost the series at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's
by
just
the way,
a
I do
lot
have a
of
story today on West Virginia that is on the site.
Yeah.
I do like their club a lot.
Me too. And I've been saying that all year long. I just want them to have an opportunity again to beat somebody good because they just haven't had, Oklahoma.
What's weird about their schedule the rest of the year is like it's not like impressive. They have Cincinnati at home, which Cincinnati's gotten better. They're at UCF, then they have Texas Tech at home. Then they finish at Kansas State and against Kansas. So, I mean, they're going to go through the entire regular season with one series against the top 25 team.
I mean, Kansas State and Kansas have both been ranked this year.
Yeah.
To be fair, those teams are having good years. I think that.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. Kansas State, I still think is good. More than that.
And the other part of this is that the Big 12 tournament, like a lot of these tournaments, but especially in one without a clear-cut number one, that tournament's going to matter more. Okay, so the SEC is not going to matter a whole lot. And I don't think the ACC is going to matter a whole lot either. But the Big 12 and the Big 10, they're absolutely going to be opportunities.
That's one thing that we to just kind of give the viewers kind of an inside look here. We've talked to J.R. Teagues, the committee chairman, about coming on one of the Nerdcasts, so he'll be one of our guests. But that's one of the things I want to ask him is, like, in this era of, single elimination tournaments, does the tournament even matter anymore?
It's quality wins. You are able to pick up quality wins.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is you're only going to get one loss. You're not going to get two, which if you're on the bubble, maybe 2 losses would have killed you, but 1 might not.
I'll just be curious to see how they, what their thinking is on how that factors.
I think, my opinion on it is kind of the same as it's been for a while, which is they should just treat it as an extension of the regular season, just one more week of data that goes into your overall body of work. And, what you do with that opportunity can help you a little or a lot, or hurt you a little. Probably won't hurt you a lot in a format where you can only lose one game, but it could hurt you a little if you go 0-1. But it's opportunity is there, but it shouldn't be overweighted. It shouldn't be like weighted more than a regular season weekend. But if you go 4-0 and win the thing, well, that carries weight.
And if you go 4 or 3-1 and you went into it being compared to another team in your conference who went 0-1.
Yeah.
Right. That absolutely is going to matter.
Mark, here's a question for you. The only other team we haven't talked about, and I agree with this top 16, by the way. I like Arizona, UCLA as the last 2 teams. But I do want to throw Vandy's name out there because, when's the last time a top 7 SEC RPI team did not – well, the top 16's only been around so long, but when's the last time, or has it ever happened, a top 7 SEC team, RPI team, not be a top 16 host?
Top 7, probably. I think there was the Georgia Tech years ago. I can go back and look, but they didn't host I think they were in that range. But I don't think Vanderbilt's going to finish at 7, and that's why
probably not. I think
they're going to end up in that 15, 16, and 14 kind of range.
Yeah,
and they're going to be compared to these other bubble teams. Yeah. And if they go on a run in Hoover and beat a couple of good teams, maybe they host in that RPI stage where it is. But I'm not buying right now.
I'm not buying them just in general. Like, even beyond the metrics, like, I'm not buying that they finish the season strong against Georgia, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee. And of course, they get Bama, Kentucky at home. But I think they probably split those 2 series. So, Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
They're-
I'm
You needed
looking
to
for
mention,
15
I mean,
and
their
15
RPI
kinda.
was 7.
Yeah, they're 8-7 right now. You know what? It reminds me of that year. I can't remember what year it was, but there were, I think it was, I don't know, roughly 2021, where Wake Forest finished around, I don't know, 14 or 15 wins in the
good call,
league
yeah.
with like a top 10 RPI and did not host. I kind of feel like Vandy's shaping up that way.
Yeah. So the other team to mention would be Alabama, and after losing at home to Mississippi State, I'm with you. I'm out on them this week. Although the schedule sets up for them to potentially get to 17 SEC wins, which if they do that and their RPI stays, and they should, if they win that many games, stays where it is now, that they'll host. I'm just right now, I need to see a little bit more to have confidence that they're going to be able to do that, because I had them winning the home series against Mississippi State and they lost it. So now they're in prove it mode because they've lost 2 series in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they're at LSU, Missouri at home. That's 3 wins. You got at Vanderbilt, Georgia at home, and then at Florida.
Yeah. And you don't know what Florida you'll be getting by then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Florida is not going to make the postseason, you might be getting a Florida team that's kind of melded in a little bit, but you never know.
Or they could figure it out and be
they could pull an A&M.
Right.
It feels like Vanderbilt, Alabama, and Ole Miss are all kind of in a little bit of a similar bucket. They're separated by 1 game in the standings. You know, Ole Miss 1 game ahead at 9-6. Bama and Vandy are both 8-7, and you know there's opportunity in front of all these teams. I don't at this point. I'm not sure how much conviction I have in Ole Miss being this far ahead of those other 2. I mean, Ole Miss being the what we have them the
13.
The others. I mean, maybe that's fine for now, but like I could see it going a lot of different directions with those 3 teams.
Yeah.
So
that would be right now. I would have Ole Miss ahead, and in Vandy and Alabama, they're bracketed. They play each other in Nashville, so maybe I give Vandy a slight edge. But I think Alabama's schedule is a little easier, so it balances it. Should Alabama win that series against Vandy, then and do the status quo in the other ones, they certainly have a shot to host.
Sure. Okay.
So that's our 16. Texas, Arkansas, Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Oregon State. That's our top 8. And then 9 through 16, LSU, Florida State, TCU, North Carolina, Ole Miss, Coastal Carolina, Arizona, and UCLA. So that's our host. So now we are going to we're going to go conference by conference and determine automatic bids, who are our at-large candidates, and get those on the board. And once we get through with that process, we'll go back, see how many teams we need to cut. Typically, we're not adding at that point, we're cutting, and determine our at-large field. So let's start with the America East.
Yes. Let's see. So last week in the America East, we had, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, our midseason projection, we had Binghamton. That hasn't gone great since then. Binghamton has slid a little bit to 5th in the standing. The Highlanders, NJIT, first place at 7-2. The Fighting Cristianeros, the Maine Black Bears, are game back. Do we have a head-to-head here? Yes, Maine won 2 out of 3 against New Jersey Tech. So they play again at Yogi Berra Stadium, mind you, Little Falls, New Jersey, coming up in about 2 weeks. So I don't know. I think I kind of like Maine here, guys. They just based on the head-to-head result.
Works for me.
But well, Maine's 13-19. Maybe we hold off a little bit. Let's tap the brakes a little bit. Let's go New Jersey Tech for now.
New Jersey Tech.
Make that change.
Okay. So now let's go to the American. UTSA. And, we looked at South Florida last week. They didn't have the best week. Oh, we lost Aaron. We lose me. Kendall, I don't hear you either.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. In the American, UTSA would be the pick here. 10-2 in the league, 28-9 overall. Mark, they're 23 in the RPI. But outside of that, I think we had South Florida in last time. They can come out. They're 20-13 overall, but they lose a series to Rice, and they are down to 79 in the RPI. So East Carolina, a program that certainly is a postseason mainstay, down to 94. That's unbelievable. Just one of those years for the Pirates.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next up is the A10. We had Fordham last week.
Yeah, I mean, Fordham 3 games back. We got to have a new team. The problem is we've got 5 teams tied for number 1. Let's see here. Let's at least do a little bit of research.
So you've got Rhode Island, and George Mason and St. Joe's at 10-5, and Dayton and Davidson. You have 5 teams at 10-5. Wow.
Yeah, I go with George Mason. So Mason has a series win over Dayton. They have a series win over St. Louis. They have a series win over VCU. Their series losses are their only series loss in conference so far is G-Dub.
Gosh.
So I think I'll lean George Mason here.
You guys missed me talking for about 90 seconds uninterrupted about the American Athletic Conference. And I kept waiting for you guys to chime in, and then you didn't. It turned out I was disconnected.
Well, then I was on mute too. So
yeah.
Oh,
so there was awkward silence while I typed. So yeah, if you want to rerun your AAC take.
Looks like you wound up in the
we pretty much, we just went through USF's plummet in the RPI after that series loss to Rice, and certainly East Carolina being 94 is shocking to say the least.
Yeah, and at this point, I just don't have a lot of faith in this particular team, this ECU team, to get hot enough down the stretch to dig out of that hole. I think it's too late. I think they missed their opportunities in the non-conference, and just don't see it happening. So I'm with you guys. I think it's a 1-bid league, and unless UTSA, continues to play this well and then doesn't win the auto bid, they're certainly an at-large team.
Right.
Mm-hmm. A10, Mark, I would just go with George Mason. I mean, really, it's either Rhodey or George Mason. You got a 5-way tie. I would just go with GMU.
Okay. All right. So next up is the ACC.
So last week we had Clemson. Last week we had in Clemson, Florida State, UNC, Duke, NC State. NC State helped its case over the weekend with a series win over Louisville. Georgia Tech, obviously, in a great spot. Then we had Virginia and Virginia Tech both in last week. And Virginia Tech probably still sitting pretty. Virginia, 9-9, 86 RPI, not so much.
Yeah, and Stanford would be out as well.
Yeah, Stanford.
For sure.
Stanford sitting at 6-12. They finally got their ACC losing streak. They got up to what, 10? Was it 10 or 9 games? And they finally won one. I think it was 10. 10 straight conference losses. So Stanford comes out. Virginia comes out. Let's look at Virginia real quick. I know Fitzy's been all in on them, and I like their club too, but they are 86 in the RPI. Here's where Virginia has left, fellas. They've got an opportunity this weekend. They're at Florida State. They're at Georgia Tech. Back-to-back weekends. Miami at home, and then at Va Tech. So, I mean, the pathway
is going up.
Yeah, their pathway is 100% in front of them. The question is, can they actually make a move here?
Well, right now the RPI is the problem. I mean, conference record isn't great, but that's not what's keeping them out. It's the RPI, and it's going to go up. Going to Florida State, Georgia Tech back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
And
at Virginia Tech is a helpful road series too for RPI.
Mm-hmm.
Also true. So the question is,
do we think they're going to win? Mm-hmm. Either we'll kind of lean on Fitzy here. Which of those series do you think they actually win? Because they need to win games too. I mean, they're 500 in the league.
Yeah, no, for sure. And at this point, it's almost like a blind face situation because they just can't quite get over the hump. Like it looked like they had North Carolina State beaten on Sunday, would have won that road series, and they couldn't hold it. You know, they're up 8-2 and couldn't hold it. So at this point, it's like, you know, there's reason to have your faith in these guys shaken a little bit. I still think we should keep them on the bubble just because they're 9-9 in the league. And so if they play well enough down the stretch, their, you know, conference record will be there and their RPI should be there, but it's not an easy path. Let's say they win 2 out of those last 4 series. Let's say they sweep Miami, and they don't get swept in any of the other ones, and they win 2 out of 3 in one of those other ones. Then that gets them to 15-15, right? Like that's kind of the path.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and they could win more than one of those series, but yeah, it's dicey. I mean, I would still, again, like certainly it's a projection pick. It's not a today pick because today they would be out.
I mean, so let me throw this team back in the ring a little bit here. Stanford, 6-12 in the ACC, but RPI is still sitting at 28. Here's what Stanford has left, fellas. It's pretty advantageous. Notre Dame at home, Wake Forest at home, at BC, GCU at home, and at NC State. I mean, they could conceivably win 4 straight series there. 3 of those being ACC series. That helps them. Yeah. I kind of like their chances to get back in this now.
I mean, but in a 6-12 hole, having just lost 10 straight in the league, like I don't have a ton of faith in this team right now. I really don't. And their pitching has been a train wreck.
Yeah. I think that's one that you watch and you evaluate, and if they start to play better and collect wins, then you can project that.
Yeah. And for what it's worth noting here too, the DSR has these teams kind of reversed. Stanford just down to 47 in the DSR, so they're 20 spots lower. Virginia is 43 in the DSR. They're 42 spots higher in the DSR there on RPI. So one of those cases where just something to keep an eye on.
Virginia, by the way, swept Stanford as well.
Yeah. So, at this point, I would say Stanford just played out right now. They're very much improving.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I was just pointing out on paper, it looks like they've got their schedule lights up a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, agreed.
They're not within range. Well, I mean, they wouldn't be in as of today, but I mean, Miami went the series against Duke. They won back-to-back series now.
Yeah,
against Pittsburgh and against Duke at home, kind of quietly against Duke last weekend. I feel like that series kind of flew under the radar, but I mean, 63 RPI, 6-9 in the league, work to do, but at least they're within striking distance of the bubble.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Keep them on the radar. And Duke, meanwhile, kind of sliding toward the bubble. I think they're still okay for now, but. Just 9-9 in the league with a 43 RPI and 1-5 Q1 record. Not ideal.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. So
next up's the ASUN.
Yeah.
So we had Stetson.
Yep.
Stetson and Austin P. I mean, they're both just kind of taking care of business. Is it true that the names of the divisions now are called the gold and the graphite? Is that accurate, or is that
don't know about that.
Let's just stick with Stetson. There's zero reason to make this confusing. We had Stetson in the midseason mark. Stetson's 13-2. Hatters it is.
Yeah. I suppose so.
But Austin P is a really good club, by the way. Fitt had a really good piece on their flooding issue last week, and Patrick Ebert will have a little part of his connection story on Cam Nickens, kind of a bounce back guy for Austin P.
Yeah, Austin P did, of course, follow up that story by losing 2 out of 3 at North Alabama. So I might have been inclined to make that
they went through a lot.
They did.
Also, one of the more bizarre back-to-back day results I've ever seen. They won 20-0 and then decided to give up a 16th spot the next day.
Yeah. It's the D1 curse. I mean, we do a feature on somebody and they're going to immediately get the big hit. Just quit trying.
I just wrote today about how really good West Virginia looks, and there's I don't know who they play this weekend. I'd have to go look. They're probably going to lose it no matter who they play. All right, boys. Big 12. Big 12 starting to sort itself out just a little bit. Last week we had Kansas State, Arizona, TCU, West Virginia, Kansas, and Baylor. Guys, I would probably have Baylor out as of today.
Agreed.
I mean, we can leave them on the bubble, but Baylor sitting at 67 in the RPI, 6-9 in the league. I would, however, put Oklahoma State on the bubble, sitting at a 48 RPI. The league record needs to get better, but I do, like, if we're projecting, I do feel better about Oklahoma State finishing strong. And then Cincinnati, again, RPI is an issue here, guys. They're 66, but they are 8-7 in the Big 12, the number 4 RPI conference league.
Yep.
Yeah. So we would have West Virginia, Arizona State, Kansas State all in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Comfortably.
Yeah, and Arizona State still sitting at 33 in the RPI. They had a couple of iffy games as of late, but 33 in the RPI, they're a good spot.
Guys, can I backtrack for 1 second here?
Sure.
I wanted to confirm my recent reporting that the ASUN baseball divisions are indeed called the Gold Division and the Graphite Division. That's confirmed.
Wow.
I just think that's
I feel like Roland Fanning was involved in this somehow.
Nah. I don't know whose fault it is. We can't put that on Coach Fanning. That's weird. You know what though? I'm here for it. Thinking outside the box. Go Graphite Division.
I wonder how the Graphite Division compares to the Lou Gehrig Division out of the Ivy League.
Anything that can get people to talk about you when you're in that position is probably a good thing, as long as it's not an arrest, right?
That's right. So. Cincinnati radar.
Yeah, we just talked about them.
Yeah. Sorry, I was hung up on the Graphite Division.
No, it's all good. Yeah, Cincinnati. The RPI is still at 66, but 8-7. Yeah, I mean, so let's dig into Cincinnati a little bit since we're talking about them. Just kind of look at their resume. A series win at Duke to start the season. That could be noteworthy, as we just mentioned. Duke falling closer to bubble territory. They have a series sweep of UCF. Granted, that series doesn't look quite as great now. And then a series win over Arizona State at home. So that's their resume right now. They've got a chance this weekend. Yeah. Well, the next 3 wow. Look at this remaining schedule. This will decide everything. They're at West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home, at Kansas, at TCU, Kansas State. Definitely would not have them as of today, but boy, they control their own destiny.
Yeah. They can win their way in.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's a team that, after the Duke series, they kind of fell flat. They split 4 at UNLV. They lost 3 out of 4 at UC San Diego. They had a series loss at home to BYU. Like they kind of were struggling for a while, and then they just found it again. So good for them for finding it again. But yeah, right now I'd say they're on the radar, but still kind of in show me mode.
A week away. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay.
Oklahoma State. Though, we're adding to the sheet, or are we still in wait mode on them?
Yeah, I would have them on the sheet.
I think they're on the bubble.
I'm a believer.
Okay. Yeah, I mean they'll objective 1 will be get above 500 overall because right now they're 16 and 17.
Yeah, the Big East guys. Last time we had Xavier.
Yep. St. John's.
Yeah, St. John's guys, 6-0, just swept the Musketeers to 50 in the RPI, 7 straight wins. Shoddy had a really good piece in their club last week. Xavier is still in the bubble, 29 RPI, just 3-13. I mean, it's a lot of quad 1 games, but 3-13. And then the only other team you could really talk about here would be Connecticut if they could get their overall record up. They're sitting at 47 in the RPI, probably not in as of today. So St. John's, Xavier would be the 2 teams.
It's definitely a don't look now situation though with UConn because they were kind of dead and they're just
they'll turn it on
every year. They do this
hanging around. They're up to 500, 17. They're inside the top 50. They're surging. That's like here they come.
So add Xavier to the Big East real quick.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll add Xavier here. Where are you, Big East?
Yeah, Big South. Last time we had High Point, and the answer is High Point. High Point still sitting at 2 games up in conference. Of course, RPI is at 73. So not a bubble team if they lose a conference tournament championship game, but 5 straight wins and 7-3 in their last 10 for the Panthers.
Okay.
Big Ten. This is an interesting one, guys. Last week we had UCLA, Oregon, Iowa, USC. And my question here would be for the Nerdmaster.
Mm-hmm.
How do you assess, like, historically, how does a committee assess Iowa? Conference champion, 92. The only two instances I can think of that compare were Utah a few years ago when they were in the Oxford Regional, and Washington. I think it was Washington. Was it a few years ago that won the Pac-12 and their RPI was like 75, but it wasn't 92.
All right. I think if you win a league, when the Big Ten is around number 5 right now overall in conference RPI, you win a top 5 league regular season, even with the unbalanced schedule, you're going to get in.
Yeah.
Regardless. Now, what you're going to hear though are some of the conference champs who've been left out, but from say 7, 8, 9 on down, who lose their automatic bid and don't get in. Right, because their RPI is not there. So that's what Iowa has got to be concerned about. So if they do win the Big Ten, though, I think they're in. That the concern though is we don't know how good they are because their schedule has not been challenging. So even within the conference, so it is kind of a weird case, and I think it's one that we're going to continue to see more and more in these unbalanced monster leagues.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I kind of consider with the Big Ten, and I get that the committee tries to come out and say that teams, not conferences, get bids, but I mean that it is a top 5 conference. It is a power conference. And right now, I mean, you're looking at 4 teams that are in really good shape to probably make the tournament right now. You just got to figure like the committee is going to give a conference like this some leeway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. But I think here's where I kind of come down on this is if they win the regular season title, I think they get some leeway. But if they finish even second, with an RPI well outside the top 60 and a the 260 non-conference strength of schedule, I just don't think that's going to get it done. So like they just plain have to win the regular season title.
Yeah, I do think it's going to, because if you have a bad RPI, you need something to offset it, and a conference title absolutely does that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it offset it enough? It's sliding scale depending on who you're being compared against. But I do feel like if you're second, if you're third, even with a gaudy record, to your point, Aaron, that would be problematic.
That's an excellent point. I would add Michigan to the worksheet. The Wolverines have won 6 straight, 8-2 their last 10, 45 in the RPI. Yep. Still just 8-7 in the league. I mean, they're kind of in the middle of the pack there, but still somewhat respectable metrics.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, USC is kind of into this. Well, for now anyway, they're safely in. Yeah, they're just I'm going to unhighlight them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Big series win over Penn State this past weekend.
And we've got Iowa and Michigan on the bubble.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point, I mean, I think we probably just need to project Iowa's in pending
as the champ. Yeah, as like a regular season champ.
Right, but just kind of make it as a regular season champ, but not as well. Here's the thing: is like if we kind of think if we have UCLA projected to host,
you kind of have to project them as the champ,
right? I mean, and UCLA's only half game.
Not necessarily. You have teams that don't win their conference host, and conference champs don't.
But it's also worth noting the UCLA is actually technically in first place by percentage points. It's very close. It's a virtual tie right now.
Okay.
So I don't know what to do with Iowa. I guess we can just highlight it and come back to it.
Who knows? Maybe we get to the bottom and there's plenty of room for them.
I think it's more interesting to keep them as an at-large and debate them.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case because we're at 64 now, and I have a feeling we might be adding to the SEC ledger here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Big West, boys. Cal Poly still in pretty good shape. We talked about them as a potential host. They're in. UC Irvine at 25 in the RPI. They are in. And then the only other team would probably be Hawaii. Keep it on UCSB. They do get Cal Poly at home this weekend. RPI 78. They got a long way to go. Hawaii 58 RPI. Mark, what's your feeling on that one? I mean, bubble team?
I think it's light right now.
Yeah. We can put them on there in yellow or make them yellow.
Hawaii.
Yeah. The Coastal Athletic Conference. I can't believe Fitzy is away for this, but Northeastern is the call. The Huskies 10-2 in the CAA, 25-9 overall. They are 9-1 in the last 10, and they've won 4 straight games at 57 in the RPI. And there he is. Well, I'll just let Aaron have the floor for Northeastern.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Pride of Brookline, Massachusetts. Rise up. # Rise Up Brookline.
Yeah, 10-2 in the league. They're up 3 games in conference.
Yeah, how about that? 57 RPI to 25-9 overall. Now, obviously, if they're going to try to get an at-large, there's not a lot of room for error with their RPI, the RPI of the rest of the league. They really got to just stay hot. But they are hot right now. They won 9 of the last 10. They're certainly the pick here in a 1-bid league, and with a chance to be an at-large, at this point. But it's going to be close for them. So just keep winning.
Yeah, I agree.
Conference USA boys. Western Kentucky would be our projected automatic bid here. 9-3 in the league. They have a series win over DBU in the last couple of weeks. Up to 32 in the RPI. Typically, Mark, I would say that a team like that, even if they lost their conference tournament, or let's just say they finished second in the league and didn't win the conference tournament, I'm not so sure they're a slam dunk because, as we talked about with some other teams out there, non-conference strength of schedule of 264. I'm not entirely sure what WKU is thinking in their non-conference schedule because a team like that from CUSA, you have got to play better teams in non-conference.
I mean, that's problematic if you need the at-large, especially if your RPI falls a little more. I think as long as they're in the mid-30s or lower, I think they're okay. If it creeps down 42, 43, then that's a danger zone with that SOS.
Yeah, I mean, you would think still if they win the league, I think in the top 45, given the fact that they what they did against DBU and now at Liberty, I would like their chances. But you're right, Mark. I mean, you get in the danger zone now with that non-conference strength of schedule if you get into the mid 40s. So,
I do think too with WKU, like I kind of feel like the regional advisory committee would be very positive on them. I mean, as of last week, they led the nation in ERA, which is pretty damn impressive no matter who the hell you're playing.
Yep.
With today's bats and balls.
If I could backtrack for 1 second, because I missed the Big West discussion. Where do we land there? Irvine, Poly, and
Hawaii is a bubble team.
Okay.
I need to. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
And Gaucho's out.
Yep.
Yeah, RPI is still 78, but they do have Poly this weekend, so they got a chance to make a little bit of a move.
Yeah, big opportunity there. Okay.
And a conference tournament in the Big West this year. So
also
even if Hawaii is in, let's say as an at-large in our projections going in the conference tournament, UCSB could win that thing and probably would knock them out.
Yeah. Okay.
The Wright State Athletic Conference?
Yeah, that's it for Conference USA, right? WKU and
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Wright State.
Yeah, easy one.
Horizon 13-2, 3.5 games up. Oof.
21-13 overall, just outside the top 100. Good year for those guys. Despite a just 1-10 Q1, but anyway, they're the team in that league. To the Ivy.
Yep.
You didn't do the independent. I think we have a change of the independent.
Yes.
Never mind. Sorry. Very, very lame excuse to be amusing.
Not amused.
Thank you.
I think we do have a change in the Ivy, however.
Yeah.
We had
Quakers.
Columbia. Now it's Penn. Yeah, Penn is 2 games clear of Yale and Columbia. Penn is 10-2 in the league. I think they're the choice right now.
There you go. They're doing so well. I got to see how many of their players going to end up at Duke or A&M next year.
Yeah.
Or Auburn.
Okay. To the I'm going to sneeze in the middle of this. The MAC. All right.
We might need to review that one. That was
very weak.
Kind of scary a little bit.
Honestly, I felt like I was going to sneeze, so it was touch and go for a minute there. Just glad I got it out.
I'm going to go with the Fighting Bill Couriers, Fairfield, 13-2 in the league, up a game and a half, 62 RPI, 9-1 the last 10. Not a net large team, but I mean they're 62 within striking distance of at least being mentioned.
Really good year. I think our guy Patrick is working on a piece on Fairfield. Is it Fairfield? I think so. I think he's got something coming there.
Okay.
To the Mid-American Conference. 2 weeks ago, here in the MAC, we had Bowling Green, and then they had that series against Miami, Ohio, which they lost. But Ball State is actually
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
the team that's now in first place. Have they played Miami? I'm trying to pull this up here. My internet is slow, guys.
I would actually probably lean Miami, Ohio here.
So yeah, Ball State has not yet played Miami or Bowling Green.
I like Miami here.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm okay with that. I mean,
It's always good to have Miami in the tournament.
Yeah, I will say this. Miami is only 19-16 overall. Ball State, for what it's worth, 26-11. They have a better RPI. Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever.
Miami has the series win against Bowling Green, and then they took 2 out of 3 from Kent State. Yeah, I'm okay.
Not your dad's Kent State, though.
That's fair. Yeah, we can go with Miami. That's fine. We'll make that change.
Mo Valley will have a little change here. We had Southern Illinois the last go around. They're now 3 games back, and Joey Hawkins and the Bears, Missouri State at 10-2, 19-15 overall. RPI is not great, but they are up in the conference.
Yeah, make that change. Illinois State is the next team, 9-3, a game back, but 1 bid league. No matter what here. But yeah, Missouri State was our preseason pick. We'll roll with them now. To the Mountain West guys, Fresno State has a 2-game lead over 3 other teams. Fresno feels like the team. Nevada was our team 2 weeks ago at midseason, but I think I'm inclined to make that change. Go to Fresno.
Agreed.
All right. To the NEC, we had Central Connecticut at the halfway mark. Central Connecticut is now 17-1 in the league, 21-5 overall.
Yeah.
How about that?
The real Blue Devils.
Yeah. So they remain in the pick. Ohio Valley, I think we went Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, still up a game.
And they're still up a game on SEMO. And SIU Edwardsville, also just a game back. But yeah, 1 bid league no matter what. Tennessee Tech will be our projected pick. To the Patriot League, hotly contested Patriot League in the D1 Baseball headquarters. Last week, we gave the much-deserved respect to the Holy Cross Crusaders. And, Holy Cross has backed that up since we made that projection.
Mm-hmm.
They split 4 against Army. They took 2 out of 3 at Bucknell on the road. Take that, Bradley. I don't know if it's Bradley. It's Joe Healy. I think he chose Bucknell. But, yeah, I mean, Holy Cross.
I might still lean Holy Cross, but, Navy did take a series from the Pards. That's not easy to do.
That's right. But
roll damn Pards.
But, of course, the Crusaders are 2-0 against Navy. So we'll stick with the Crusaders.
I would love to make a change here. Sorry, America.
Pride of Worcester County. Onward, SEC.
There we go. Yeah, so last week, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. I still feel pretty good about Kentucky. Mark, do you still feel okay about Kentucky?
I do. I think they're going to finish 13-17. And in this year's SEC, I think that gets you in.
Yeah, that would get you in.
Agreed.
Yeah, they've had, as Joe, I know you guys have talked about a lot. There's a lot of very close losses there. That record could easily be flipped, but it isn't.
Yeah, we talked about it on the pod on Monday. Of their 5 recent SEC losses, it's a total of 11 runs that they lost by in those 5 losses. I would add A&M and Mississippi State to the list here.
Yep.
And I'll say this. I kind of think both of them are getting to 13 wins.
So I did the math on this. If you go back and look at Monday's SEC Dish, I think Mississippi State is probably going to get to 14 wins, and
Yeah.
that includes only winning 2 of 3 at Mizzou the final weekend. Okay, so there's a little wiggle room because by that time Mizzou may, Mississippi State will have something to play for while Missouri won't. So I do think Mississippi State's in great shape to climb back in this, and I didn't feel that way 2 weeks ago. As for A&M, they've just got to avoid getting swept in these 4 huge series they have left, and then they got to sweep Missouri. And if they do that, they're at 13 wins. And with that strength of schedule, playing all those teams, which they would have beaten one time of each of those,
Yeah.
They would get in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overinflate what they've done the last 2 weeks, but I think I'd be a little surprised if they didn't sneak up and take one of those series against one of those teams.
I mean, it's Arkansas and Texas both on the road. It's LSU at home.
And I kind of think they might take 2 from LSU at home.
Right. And then at Georgia, and then Mizzou at home is in there as well, which you got to like that offense against Mizzou's pitching. So I do feel like they need 7 wins out of that, and I think they're going to get it.
I'll add that this is the case with Mississippi State and A&M. In both cases, DSR likes them more than RPI. DSR has them like 26 and 27. They're, I think Mississippi State's in the 30s, and A&M is 53 right now in the RPI. So anyway, just food for thought.
Yeah. By the way, Mark, I don't know if you were including this in Mississippi State's tally, but they also have a midweek game against Ole Miss left.
I was not.
So that counts as a conference game.
It does, and they
to the committee.
Ole Miss, right? They host Ole Miss in a big series that should, with that one you just never know, right? And in that stadium with something to play for, that could be a lot of fun for that weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
How much room we have, but it's
as crazy as it sounds. I think I like 13 SEC teams being in. Because I think if A&M plays the way that they've been playing down the stretch, even if they lose some of those series, like the advisory committee is going to think very highly of them, because nobody's going to remember what they did, at the end of February against Cal Poly, which, by the way, we all bagged on them for blowing that 19th game against Cal Poly. Cal Poly's turned out okay.
You bagged on them.
They still won that series.
Yeah.
So
I do think, to your point, if they are in all these high-profile games the rest of the way, and they're competitive and they win 1 out of 3, and maybe, to your point, Kendall, that they take one of them or multiple, right? And then that gives them some leeway down the stretch where you don't have to be as perfect. And I just feel like with what the basketball committee did, with what baseball has done in years past, I do think that they're going to weigh how good the SEC is, and there's going to be some benefit of the doubt with a conference record that isn't sparkling.
I do think also, though, it's worth mentioning with these larger conferences, just getting to 13 conference wins or even 12, will that be treated the same way or not? I mean,
it shouldn't, because of how unbalanced the conference schedules are. Because A&M's 30 is not the same as Ole Miss's 30 or whomever you want to pick, right? So you could be 13 and 17, and it'd actually be more impressive than someone else's 15 and 15.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I want to say that A&M is going to end up playing every top team in the SEC.
They do, Kendall. They do.
But by the way, right. And by the way, I would definitely, we talk about series they could steal. I would stay away from betting on next weekend's series at Texas. just me. I wouldn't bet on that one if I were you. So,
it's going to be nuts.
Yep.
It's going to be absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that, we good there?
We can proceed with 13 for now and come back to it.
Figure it out later. Okay. So next up,
SoCon.
SoCon.
So we had ETSU 2 weeks ago. They're currently in second place at 6-3, a game behind 7-2 Greensboro. But I still
beat
think
them, right? Didn't Greensboro beat them in a series?
Greensboro,
Yes, Greensboro took a series from them
in
2
Johnson
weekends
City.
ago.
Yep,
At home. So I like the Spartans.
Make a change.
Yep, I agree.
Let's make sure with Sanford real quick. Let's make sure Sanford
So
is not
they
played.
lost to ETSU, so that's the kind of the triumph here.
And they still haven't played UNCG.
Right.
Yeah, UNCG, I mean, for what it's worth, has the worst overall record of these three and the worst RPI. They're 17-18. ETSU is 25-9 with 56 RPI. I mean, it's going to be a one bid league is how it's going to shake out. But theoretically, ETSU is in the at-large discussion if they can win their league and finish in the top 50, but it's just probably not going to happen.
Right.
So we'll give Greensboro the benefit of the doubt based on that head-to-head road series win and the fact they're in first place.
Southland, how about this one?
Yeah. So
UTRGV was the pick last go around. I would still have them there.
Yeah.
16-5, 35 RPI would probably still be in no matter what. And then McNeese, guys, this is probably a two-bid league. I mean, McNeese, 14-4, 24-5 overall, and McNeese is 26 in the RPI with 12 straight wins.
Yeah, put them in.
Going into an LSU game Tuesday night.
So if you're listening to the show on Wednesday,
right.
Things could change one way or another for a lot of these teams. You know, there's still a lot of fluidity at this point in the season in the RPI, but that's a big opportunity for McNeese. But I think right now we just have to put them in. And I mean, you've got Southeastern Louisiana that also is in the discussion at same conference record as McNeese, 14-4 with a 51 RPI. They've won out of the last 10, but
the history would suggest a Southland team is not getting in at 51.
No, I mean certainly they would have to, but I mean they're in striking range. So put them on the radar. I would probably say at this point, I don't think the Southland has much chance to get more than 2 bids, but I mean they've got 5 teams right now that are in the top 90, you know, and 3 of them are around top 60-ish. So like there's a chance. Is there an outside chance of 3 bids for this league? I don't think so.
It would have to take somebody winning the automatic and these 2 getting in.
Yeah.
That's
like if Southeastern, let's say, or I guess someone else wins the automatic, but they're not going to. Yeah, I think you're right.
What league is the committee chairman from?
That was in my brain the whole time, but I beat that so hard last show. I just let it go.
This is a good point.
Oh man.
Well, we'll see if Southeastern has staying power. For now, I think probably still on the outside looking in.
All right. So the
SWAC. We had Florida A&M last week, and I think we're good sticking with them. It's either Florida A&M or Bethune-Cookman. I'll go with FAMU. 222 RPI versus 278.
And they're 13-1 in the SWAC.
Yeah.
So
Summit. Aaron is excused from this conversation. We don't allow him to talk about the Summit anymore. Guys,
the restraining
Roberts.
That's
here comes a rant. Oral Roberts is now 2.5 games out, and they're a half game behind North Dakota State.
You know, I feel like Kendall keeps on trying to force this in there out of context, Mark. Mark understands the context. The rant was in reference to a team that was in the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska the year before, being like 290 in the RPI the next year. That was the rant. It's not nothing about
They were some really classic rants, though.
It was nothing.
I mean, there was one that he was like solid red. He was getting very fiery about something that nobody cares about.
Well, I'm just, I don't want you I don't want you to now twist it because it's nothing about ORU as a program or the Summit League. It's just about the absurdity of a top 18 being 290 the next year.
Speaking of not absurd is North Dakota State, which, by the way, has a series win at ORU. And also, by the way, this past weekend took a series from the Tommies of St. Thomas at home. So let's make a change. North Dakota State.
But that said, North Dakota State's still 2 games behind the Tommies, and the Tommies do have a head-to-head series
win. The Tommies cannot make it. Transition. Welcome to 2 years ago, Fitzy.
Hold on. I thought we were I thought
St. Thomas has only been Division I for 1 year.
Okay, you're right. I guess you're right.
I'll double check while we're doing this, but I mean, there's no team I ever remember that was able to make the tournament in year 2.
I believe you're correct.
Okay, so North Dakota State.
Oh wow, 2026. So next year. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I thought it was close.
Yeah. Sure you did.
North Dakota State.
Sunbelt. Troy, Southern Miss, and Coastal Carolina. And a year after this league was like the cat's meow, this league is not great, RPI wise.
Yep. 3 bits. Kind of
4th place, App State, 145. 5th place, Georgia State, 136. Georgia Southern would be Old Dominion would be the top RPI team left on the board. 69 in the RPI right now, fellas.
And they're 12 and 21 overall.
Oof. Ouch.
Yeah, it's a 3-bit league. At least Southern Miss's RPI is in better shape than it was 2 weeks ago. They're up to 38.
Yeah. Troy, one of those teams, kind of an odd team that they're ranked. RPI is not in host territory yet at 31.
Yeah.
But
they're
quality club.
Hanging around. The periphery of the hosting race. They just need to they need to get hot. They need to start sweeping some more teams. They've been doing too much 2 out of 3 stuff.
WCC Gonzaga, it is again. We had them at the midseason mark. They're 10-2, 17-15 overall. I want to say they are one of 2 teams with a winning record in the WCC. The other being LMU in 1917. Ouch.
Okay.
And then the WAC. Let's finish her off. WAC. We had Grand Canyon. Let's see. I want to say actually we may have a change here. Utah Valley 9-3 in the or 9-3 overall in the conference. They just won a head-to-head against Grand Canyon in the series. 20-12 overall. Nate Rasmussen doing a really nice job in year 1 for UVU. I would probably flip the UVU here.
I mean, I know they just won the head-to-head and they're tied for first, but really, are we? We're betting against the GCU team that has been the class of this league and is still tied for first.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, but it was at GCU. I mean, you can make the flip if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how they've earned it for now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
This could be one of those that's flipping every week.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and on record, and I'm going to place my faith in Grand Canyon long term. But I think Utah Valley has earned it for now. In a 1-bid league. I mean, Grand Canyon, again, one of those teams like its RPI is 54, like they're borderline-ish. If they were to climb some in the RPI and win the league, like could they get an at-large? Theoretically, they've gotten an at-large before a couple years ago, but it's kind of a long shot the way it's shaking out. So
68 teams, and we have 4 to trim, boys.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
Virginia would be one.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, like, I don't know. I'm really going to take the 13th SEC team over a team that is 9-9 in the ACC that still has work to do. But I mean, we're talking like we're taking 5 and 10 SEC teams over 8 and 8 ACC teams.
But we're not doing it as of today. They
I know.
will be 5 and 10.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's projection based for sure.
My issue with Virginia isn't necessarily they can get their record better, but like they're coming from such a position of weakness from an RPI standpoint.
But if they get their record better, I mean, if they again, we've talked about it. They have 3 road series left out of their 4 in conference. I think if they go 500 and finish 15-15 in the ACC, I think the RPI will get there.
But do we think they're going to go 500?
I do, but I get that I'm a Virginia truth.
Well, okay, let's move down the list then. So I still feel like Oklahoma State has more to prove.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Hawaii is short for me. They would be at the bottom.
Oklahoma State and Hawaii. We'll take Oklahoma State and Hawaii off the board.
And I think you could, like Michigan probably as well, just as they're ninth place in the Big 12, or Big 10 rather, Big 10.
Do you like
Granted,
Xavier more than Michigan?
Yeah, I might. I mean, just the RPI, all those road
RPI,
games.
really their only blemish is that series loss to St. John's.
I mean, they have blemishes. I mean, they're only 19 and 18 overall. They played a lot of Q1 games, but they're only 3 and 13 against those games. So it's like you give them credit for playing a tough schedule, but also like, I mean, I guess they're above 500. So like they've kind of.
I think the problem you would have as a committee is if you're comparing Xavier to A&M and Mississippi State, there's probably no one in that room that's going to go, oh, they're better than those guys. Like nobody's going to think that. So I probably would take them out.
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily have. It's not necessarily them versus one of the SEC teams.
Well, so right now, if we take out Oklahoma State,
Hawaii, Michigan.
Let's take out the Pokes. Let's take out Michigan. Let's take out Hawaii. That leaves us with one spot to cut, with your candidates being A&M, Mississippi State, Iowa, Xavier, Virginia.
Yep. So,
I mean, my pick here would be Xavier because I'm kind of with you on Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia. So my ranking of these teams would probably be A&M, Mississippi State, Iowa, Virginia, Xavier for me.
Ultimately, I feel like Iowa is the team that winds up fading, but I don't know that we need to cut them right now. It probably makes more sense to cut Xavier. Although, as I'm saying this today on April 15th, tax day, who do I ultimately think is more likely to get a bid? It might be Xavier rather than Iowa, just based on the RPI starting points and the margin for error.
Yeah.
But right now, also, I don't know. I think I probably lean toward cutting Xavier today. They only one game over 500.
So it's almost like this is the perfect non-conference strength of schedule argument.
Yeah.
Okay. So in years past, when you have a team with a good conference record, but who did not challenge themselves in non-conference, versus a team with maybe they didn't win their conference, but they did everything they could in non-conference, who gets the benefit of the doubt here typically?
But also it's everything you could. It's two ways of looking at that. There's scheduling really aggressively, but there's also winning some of those games, right? Like 3 and 13 Q1 is still 3.
Yeah, they're 4 and 10 versus the field. Was 2 and 2. Right.
Yeah, that's a lot more games against the field, but it's also not a very good winning percentage.
Because look at who they played.
Yeah, I know for sure. I mean, that's why they're in the discussion, is because they played a lot of good teams and lost to a lot of good teams. Yeah. But they're still a game over 500, which again is impressive. I mean, given who they've played in all the road games, but it's also like, I mean, they're in third place technically in their league right now. I mean, it's tight, but it's not like, I mean, it's the Big East. It's not.
Do we project Iowa to stay in the top couple in the conference versus Xavier? Do we expect them to catch St. John's, to stay ahead of UConn, those kind of things? It's projection. And this is, I don't know enough about those rosters to answer that question.
Let me look at Iowa's remaining schedule. I think we talked about this already, but they're 14-4 currently, at Michigan for 3, then versus Indiana, at Washington, who's actually been playing pretty good.
Yeah.
Versus Oregon State non-conference at home, and then versus Oregon. Both those teams come to Iowa.
So the other thing, and this is kind of counterintuitive to what I just said, is Iowa's 10 and 5 on the road. Xavier's 7 and 14. So there's a lot of road games for Iowa. It's just they're against teams that they can handle.
Right.
They're Q4 wins.
Yeah, honestly, looking at Iowa's schedule, I mean, there's plenty of, even in the non-conference, there's plenty of brand names here. You know, they went to South Florida. They played Notre Dame and Stetson, and I mean, Wazoo, I know isn't what it used to be, but I mean, it's not like you're playing Sisters of the Blind here.
Yeah.
But that said, the metrics are the metrics.
Intent to schedule might look pretty decent though.
Yeah, I think intent to schedule looks better than actual non-conference strength schedule for them. So I guess we could take a vote here. Iowa versus, does it come down to Iowa versus Xavier for this last spot? We're just going to go ahead and project 13 SEC and also project UVA in.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
On Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia would be the 10th ACC. And again,
so if Virginia goes to Tallahassee and gets swept, we can reevaluate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, by the way, Virginia, to be in the top 45 of the RPI, the needs report says they have to win 15 or less 19 games.
No way.
Man, that doesn't pass the smell test to me. And I'm a big RPI needs report guy, but that doesn't pass the smell test.
Hey, it's got to climb a lot. That would be the thing. It's believing in the talent, and I do think that those are the teams that get the benefit of the doubt at the end. But it is a climb. It's a climb.
I will say this: just a couple of weeks ago, Texas A&M won 2 games from Tennessee, and they went up like 40 spots in the RPI in 1 day. So
it can happen. If you go to Tallahassee, and you win 2 out of 3, we'll see it'll look a little lot different next week.
Yeah. Do we want to wait on them to do that?
I think for now we stay the course with Virginia and we project them in.
Okay.
I don't see Xavier and Iowa getting in. I feel like
I would take Xavier out. I really would.
Okay.
I mean, my thing is intent to schedule is great, but to me, if intent to schedule is great, but you lost almost all those games and you're not the conference champion in a very mid-major-ish league, you're not getting in.
That's the thing is that sweep at home, or was it at home against St. John's this week? No, it was. Is that
Queen? Was it in Queens?
It was in Queens. Yeah, it was at St. John's.
Okay.
Anyway, they got swept. Like it was right there for them, and they got swept.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think for now they can come out after that. So that gets us where we need to get.
Yep. So our next 4 would be Xavier, Cincinnati, Michigan, McNeese.
Not
Michigan.
Yes.
Or last 4 or next 4?
No, next 4 would be Cincinnati, Michigan. Who else did we just cut a minute ago?
Michigan, Oklahoma State, Hawaii.
Oklahoma State, Hawaii.
Were the ones. I didn't have Cincinnati in the last.
No, that was from 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Sorry, I was looking at that. Yeah, so the next 4 or the next 4 after the field would be Xavier, Michigan, Oklahoma State, and Hawaii.
Yep.
Do we want to do 4 more to watch here?
We can if you want, I guess. We mentioned a bunch of teams to watch over the course of the show.
Let me go back to my bubble sheet.
Yeah, it's good to mention that just because the committee does it.
I mean, Southeastern Louisiana as a team to probably put on there.
Yeah, Southeastern Louisiana would be a really good one.
Okay. Stanford?
Yeah.
They were when we looked at.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, RPI and advantageous schedule.
Maybe like a UCSB.
Yeah.
Miami.
Yeah, we don't have to include that if you guys don't want to. Just
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. Yeah, those sorts of teams.
Mm-hmm. Cincinnati.
Yep.
Yeah, Cincinnati would be on the back of the end of that list for me.
Yeah.
RPI's in a rough spot, but good league record.
We can, if we want to include that, we can hammer that out offline. But I think we've got a pool of candidates there.
We're good.
Well, good job,
Mark?
guys. Yeah. I guess the thought for me is we are still projecting, as you say, there's a lot of back and forth at the end where we're trying to figure out, how these things are going to transpire the next 5-6 weeks. And we're going to be wrong. But in some cases, we're going to be right as well. So I do think there's an opportunity to go in and play some what-if games and and you guys do that along with us. It seems like a lot of fun to do, right? So, just final thoughts from you guys before we wrap.
I think the biggest thing for me is, what Virginia does over the last few weeks,
Yeah.
what Iowa does down the stretch, and the fact that, right now we're projecting history, and that would be the SEC getting 13 bids in the NCAA tournament. So just how that materializes down the stretch is really intriguing to me.
Yep.
Well, they added 2 tournament teams.
Right,
They had
right.
11 last year. So
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
It's a different world, different landscape
Mhm.
with these super conferences, and we're just all trying to figure out how to navigate that. And the committee will have to figure that out as well.
Well, with that, that's a show. So we'll come back to you next week and we'll pick another field. We'll start from scratch and get after it again. So hope you enjoyed it. Visit D1 Baseball. And again, before we go, thanks to our sponsors, Academy Sports, Tecovas Boots. I do want to just say how appreciative we are to have these great sponsors to help us along and bring all this great content to you. So with that, that's a show.